Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances, Mata. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa Conference Call, Mata. Please keep joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to Assemblea. Happy Ram Navami to everyone. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for joining Bhakti Sangha Japa Conference Call. I see Maharaj has already joined. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet, Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all our Guru Maharajas. And thank you for your kind association every time consistently, Maharaj, and welcome on this auspicious day of Ram Navami. If you could kindly speak a few words on glories of Sri Ramachandra, we will be very, very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Maharaj, you're
muted.
Om Gyan Chandandasya Gyanadjana Salakaya Taksunilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvase Sasunyavari Pastyatya Deve Panchakopataru Vischa Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ramari Murti Sukalani Amena Tishnan Nanavataram Akaro Bhuvane Jakinchu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamanyo Govindamari Purusham Amaham Bhajami. And this verse from the Brahma Samhita mentions that there are many manifestations or incarnations of the Lord's appearance. And Sri Ram is mentioned first, Ramari. And therefore it is understood that he is the principal incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we celebrate his appearance every year at this time. In fact, the Ramayana, or the story of the life, or the history of the life of the Supreme Lord's activities in this material world, are known throughout the Asian world in different names. And it's quite a popular epic, you might say, for some countries. Others take it more seriously. But it's interesting that outside of the area of Bharat Bhumi, Ram is very much known and also praised and eulogized. So many essential principles, both of the Lord's nature and moral, religious, aesthetic, spiritual values are illustrated throughout the entire Ramayana. The Ramayana teaches how a person who takes the position of the executive head should conduct themselves, both in his personal life and in his private life. And so you'll see the Lord teaches when he comes, not only does he just enact his pastimes for his transcendental pleasure or for the benefit of the others. We hear often the verse quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata bhutanam dharmasya tadattanham srijami aham pravitranayam sarunam Vinasanaya chaduskritam dharma samstarpanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. So this verse illustrates that the Lord comes whenever there is a significant decline in religious principles, a significant rise of irreligious persons on the planet. We know them as demons. And also, he comes to protect, enliven his devotees, to give them a chance to see him, serve him, and make quicker progress, transforming back to God. This is mentioned in the Gita when it comes. So this particular manifestation of incarnation is interesting because he is called Maryada Purusha, or that personality who is exemplary in all of his activities. He follows rules and regulations. You'll see in the incarnations of some of the other manifestations of the appearances of the Lord, they go outside of civility, morality, aesthetic values. But that's okay because these things are for human life and for people who are inhabitants of the material world, not for the Lord. The Lord makes the principles, and he can also change the principles as he suits him in order for a higher good. He doesn't do it simply because he has that power. He does it for a higher good. The Lord is always good. He works for the benefit of everyone, and he knows how to do things for the benefit of everyone, not just for a limited class of people, or even just for the human society. He benefits all of human beings. The story of the lion is quite long. It would take hours to narrate the entire story, and there's many authorized versions of the lion. Valmiki is considered to be the most authorized author of the Ramayana. Valmiki was a hunter, a murderer, actually, and he got the association of Narada Muni. He changed, became a great devotee, and by the arrangement of Lord Brahma, he was asked to write the story of the history of the Ramayana. Of course, in those days, there weren't any books. That was 2 million years ago. But it was done through oral expression and oral reception. In those days, people had good memories. So if oral were given to competent persons, they could recite it verbatim at any time. And so this is how the tradition was handed down. It's only when Vyasadeva came a little more than 5,000 years ago that he actually put all of this in book form. Dasarat, King Dasarat was the king of Ionia. And he had, it says he had 350 wives, and 3 of them were prominent or chief wives. We don't hear about that statement so often, but it is mentioned in certain areas of the Ramayana. There are many versions of the Ramayana, and there's many details that are not given in every version. So if you really have to study all of the different authorized versions, you have Valmiki's Ramayana, which is the most authorized. You have Kambi from the Sri Sampradaya. His Ramayana is authorized. And that was declared by the Lord himself. And then you have Tulsidas's Ramayana, which is a beautiful expression of poetic alliteration and glorification of the Lord, but it's tinged with Mayavad philosophy. And therefore, Prabhupada cautioned us not to delve into Tulsi Das's Ramayana. Although parts of it are so beautiful, especially the wedding of Sita and Ram, it's so nicely expressed, pure poetry. But on the whole, not on the whole, but some of the parts of the Ramayana indicate certain mind-body principles. Okay, so Dasarath, he was the king of Ionia. Ionia was a very luxurious and very opulent city, 24 miles across, 96 miles long. There were hundreds of millions of citizens in the city, and everyone was qualified in the four Varnas. The four Varnas were there. The city was beautiful. Elephants would roam the city, sprinkling scented water along the walkways. Houses were decorated with various types of festoons, fruits, and various flags. Everything it actually rivaled Indra's abode in the heavenly planets. It was so opulent. And there was no sinful people. Everything was according to the principles of morality, civility, and spirituality. The city was well guarded by some of the greatest Kshatriya fighters in the history at that time. You can read, take some time and read in a very elaborate way the glory of the city. But Dasarath was unhappy. Although he had everything, he had prestige, he had power, he had followers, he had many qualified and beautiful wives. He had everything, citizens, wealth, but still he wasn't happy because as hard as he had endeavored, he was not able to create the heir to his throne. He did have one daughter, her name was Shanta, and he gave that daughter to his neighboring friend, Ramapad, who had a kingdom there, the kingdom of Anga. Ramapad's Maharaj was the ruling head, and so he gave Shanta, his daughter, to him because Ramapad also had no issue at all. So, but Dasarath wanted a son, and he was getting old. And so he was thinking, I should perform a yajna. I should perform an Ashvamedha yajna. And this will bring auspiciousness. If the gods are pleased by this, they'll bless me with a son. So he consulted his ministers, which is the duty of a ruling monarch, is to get advice from a class of people who are known as advisors. They are the Brahmins. The Brahmins give advice and direction, counsel to the Kshatriya rulers, the kings. And this way, everyone has their role in society. And this way, the Kshatriyas, they get the best advice in how to rule the kingdom. And so he took permission from them, and they granted it immediately, saying, yes, king, this is a good idea. But then, when everything was being ready, prepared, Sumitra came to Dasarath and said, in order for this to be successful, you have to bring Rishishringa and his wife, Shanta, who is your daughter. They are now living in the kingdom of Ramapad. And Rishishringa is very powerful. When Maharaj Ramapad was undergoing in his area of the world very severe drought, he arranged for his daughter to marry Rishishringa, who was living in the forest as a hermit. But he was so powerful, Rishishringa, that simply by coming into the kingdom, Indra immediately started to pour rain, very auspicious. It's interesting, you know, when there's too much sinful activity, there's always calamities on all levels, even in the weather. There's inclement weather, droughts, famine, pestilence, which we know of, forest fires, tidal waves, hurricanes. All of these uprisings of Mother Nature are due to the sinful life of the population. If you were to do a little research, and you can do it, today you can find that there are so many what we call cataclysms going on in the world, in different areas of the world, because today people are sinful. There's no question about it. They don't follow any rules and regulations. They do whatever they want, whenever they want. And they think that this is the way to live life. And therefore, they break religious principles, they break moral principles, and therefore they get reactions which expand itself out to affect the entire society, especially the killing of cows. When cows are killed, the whole society goes to hell in a systematic way. And so Sumantra's advice was taken by Dasarath, and he spoke to his friend Ramapad, and Ramapad said, yes, yeah, your daughter and your son-in-law can come. And so he gave permission, and they came to the kingdom. And because of the presence and the sacrifice, of the quality of sacrifice issued by Rishishringa, you know, out of the fire, this was called Putresti. Putresti was the ceremony that was performed. And out of the fire, a golden person came holding a pot in his hand. When he placed that pot, he handed it to Dasarath, and then went back into the fire. It was a mystical being who brought about what we know is called as Havasyana, which is just a sacred type of sweet rice. And it's given, it was instructed by the yogi masters that you give these to your three queens, and after some time, they will start to develop, pregnancy. And so he took it, and it was instructed how he should do it. He took half and gave it to Koshalya. He took the other half, and he took, he divided that into half again, and he gave one quarter to Sumitra, and he gave 1/8. No, he gave 1/8 to Sumitra and 1/4 to Kaikaya. That's right, Kaikai. And then he took that other 1/8 and gave it to Sumitra. So Sumitra had 2 children, Lakshman and Satrugna. Kaikaya had Bharat, Koshalya had Ram. And after some time, 4 illustrious, powerful personalities came. They were the incarnations of Lord Narayan, who manifested themselves as Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. Say they are incarnations of the symbols of Lord Vishnu, the conch, the disc, the lotus, and the chakra. So 4 sons, they grew up very nicely. They were loving amongst each other, but everyone could see that Ram was the most outstanding. And so his father, of course, he was also coming from his principal queen. So his father designated him as the Prince Regent, or the upcoming king, monarch, after he would retire. So Dasarath wanted to retire before he died. And this is a very important principle we don't see in today's society, is that now when someone gets into office, they die in office. They can't even perform their duties properly, they get so old, and still they stay in office to the end of life. But here we see in the example is that one should retire timely, as it says. And Dasarath followed that principle, and he was preparing to, finish out his time while his son was ruling around the kingdom. But then there was some intrigue by Heike's servant, Mantara. And Mantara, she turned the whole thing around and poisoned Heike, saying that Bart should be the king, and if Bart's the king, Ram will become angry, and he'll get his armies against Bart, and there'll be so much problems. So better to send Ram to the forest for 14 years. And Heike had the benediction that she could ask 2 boons from Dasarath anytime she wanted to. She had saved his life, nursed him back after he was injured, and he gave her 2 blessings. And she said, I'll take those blessings when I need them. So Mantara told her, this is the time. Now, at first, Heike wasn't interested, but Mantara's very poisonous mentality was persistent, and somehow she convinced Heike, even against her will, that she'd go ahead with this plan. So she told Dasarath. Dasarath was mortified. He couldn't believe that she had done that. She had so much love for Ram, even though she wasn't his direct mother. Still, everyone loved Ram. He was the Sinister. He was the pinnacle of everyone's ideal, the ideal person. He was powerful, loving, humble. Everything about him was so attractive. Of course, he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he manifested all of these qualities even at a young age. And so when Dasarath heard that, he was besides himself with grief. And he had promised to give her the boons, and she threatened him that your reputation will be destroyed if you do not follow your promise, because it's understood that when a Kshatriya gives a promise, better to die than break the promise. It's also a very interesting point that we should understand. A lot of times we promise things to someone or something in some situation, and we don't follow through with it. That is a sign of weakness. That is a sign of not understanding what it means to give your word. Just like we find people who take initiation sometimes, after some time they fail to follow their initiation vows. And then they go down in their spiritual life, and they cause trouble to everyone, not only to themselves, to the spiritual master, but to everyone. Because on initiation, it's called a vow, not a promise. A promise sometimes can be broken under circumstance, but a vow can never be broken no matter what. So he had the Kshatriyas take a vow of truthfulness. So when he gave that vow, that promise that he was going to, it was a vow. And she threatened to make his reputation destroyed if she did. So he was at the hands of these 2 ladies who had conspired against Ram to change the whole situation. Why did Mantara do that? Mantara did that because he was thinking if Ram becomes king and Kaushalya will be the what we call it, the ideal queen, the favored queen. Right now, Heike was the favored queen, but once Ram becomes the king, that will be replaced by Kaushalya. And she was thinking, I'm the maidservant of Heike. Therefore, what will happen to me? what will happen to my situation? I will no longer get the benedictions that I am receiving as being a maidservant of Heike. So she was greedy, envious, and very cunning. And this is also a very important part to understand it. We should not listen to people speaking bad about others because it's poison. Even if it has some element of truth, it's never completely true, but if it even has some element of truth, should be avoided because it disturbs the mind and causes one to commit offenses and causes one's spiritual life to be put on hold, check. So one should not listen to or even engage in criticism, fault finding, blaspheming of anyone, especially devotees. So we can see the effects here. Heike was innocent, but she lent a sympathetic ear at one point. And because of that, she became victimized by this poison. And although initially she had no feelings of enmity towards Ram or any desire for her son to become the king, still, just by listening to this very cunning vituperation by Mantara, she changed. So it's a good lesson to learn. That be careful what you listen to and who you listen to, what you say and who you associate with. It can cause your spiritual life to be damaged very severely. Okay, there's so many wonderful stories of the life of Sri Ram. He spent 14 years in the forest. But going back a little bit, it's another interesting point about the quality of a dutiful son. It says that the obedient to superiors is a quality of morality and civility and intelligence. So Ram, when he heard from his father, Dasarath, that the whole situation was changed and Bharat was going to be the king and he was going to be into the forest, he immediately accepted it because it came from his father, who is his superior. He didn't argue, saying, well, all the citizens are favoring me and, you already chose me. Now, he didn't argue. He was thinking, whatever my father says, I must obey. And he did it willingly. And then, of course, that led to him going to the forest. Another interesting point that precedes them going to the forest, that Lakshman, immediately when he heard he wanted to join Ram, and Ram agreed. But Sita, she also had that same desire. I cannot stay here in Ayodhya without you, Ram. The duty of a wife is to be with her husband. So I'm going. He said, you can't go. He said, I'm going. The forest, he said, the forest is dark. It is, full of rakshasas, dangerous persons. There are wild animals. There are dangerous insects. It's cold. What will you eat? How will you live? It's not meant for a princess like you. He listened to Ram's admonishing, but then he said, my dear husband, for me, Ayodhya, without you, is like the forest. And the forest with you is like Ayodhya. He made that beautiful statement that doesn't matter where I am, if I'm with you, that's all that counts. And so she had that dedication and love for Ram. And therefore Ram could not refuse her. But we see, as the story plays itself out, there were so many problems with Sita in the forest. Fast forward a little bit, the demigods had asked Lord Brahma to arrange for the Supreme Lord to come because there was this powerful Rakshasa, whose name was Ravana, who was quite invincible. He had received benedictions from Lord Brahma himself that he could not be killed by any living entity except humans. He decided not to take that benediction because it's known that the Rakshasa race is much more superior than the human race, both in intelligence and in abilities. So he was thinking, don't even give me that benediction, it's an insult. So he took benedictions that he would not be killed from any other species of life except humans. So the Lord incarnated as a human to keep the benedictions of Lord Rama intact. And this Ravana, he was very, very powerful and very, very lusty. He was personification of lusty desires. He had so much wealth, so many followers, so much honor and prestige were coming his way. He had so many queens. He had one of the most chaste queens in the history of Vedic culture, Mandodari. He's glorified on the same level as Anasuya and Sita. But still, he wasn't satisfied. So this is a very important point that we should take careful notation of, because it's very fundamental to our practice in Krishna consciousness. And what is that? Is that one can never be satisfied by material things. The more you have, the more you want. And the more you get, the less satisfied you become. But just the way it is, the soul is by nature pure, and it gets satisfaction in relationship to the Lord. The mind and senses may get some temporary satisfaction from the external energy, but it cannot sustain it in a person where they get some pleasure, some satisfaction, some temporary permanence, and temporary feelings of happiness. But then all of that is lost very quickly. And so it says that when you try to satisfy lust, it's compared to throwing a log on a fire. As soon as you throw the log on the fire will go down as the presence of the log. And therefore the fire becomes less. So the fire of lust goes down every time you try to satisfy it. But then again, because the log will blaze in a little while, that same lust will increase more and more. This example is used in the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. So it's a very important thing to understand. We as spirit beings, we can only be satisfied with something that is of our nature. And that is Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, spiritual activities. Can never be satisfied fully or completely with material things, material situation. Okay, and then of course the story goes on how Ravana heard about Sita from one of his generals, and he came, played a trick on the Lord using Marichi to lure Ram away from Sita's protection. He stole her and took her to his capital in Lanka, 800 miles across the ocean. And the Lord didn't, acting as an ordinary human being, appeared to be, didn't know where his Sita was. And so he was told that if he wanted to find Sita, he should go to the kingdom of the Varnas and get advice from Sugriva. And so he did, made alliances with the monkeys. Of course, there's many stories. And then the monkeys, along with Ram, there were millions and millions of Varnas. Some of them were demigods who had taken the birth of this culture called Varnas, which were half monkey and half human. And they assisted Ram in helping to bring Sita back to Ram, which is a beautiful story, and how the fighting went on. You read it in the Ramayana, how diligent Ravana was in sending out his soldiers, his forces, his generals, some of his invincible associates, but they were all destroyed by the arrows of Ram and Lakshman and by the power of the monkey soldiers. It was a great battle. The last final battle between Ram and Ravana is very interesting. They squared off and they were shooting arrows at each other. Of course, both were expert archers. And Ram was shooting, and Ravana, he had 10 heads. And so Ram was slicing off his heads with his arrows, but Ravana was not in the least bit fazed by that, because every time one head would go off, it would grow back again. He had an unlimited nectar of immortality that was situated within his heart. And therefore, the heads would come, when they would be sliced off, they would come back. But then Vibhishan, who was the brother of Ravana, who had defected from Ravana, he was a saintly person. He wasn't like the other Rakshas. He said, if you want to kill him, you have to shoot it into his heart. There he has a reservoir of nectar. It's a very amazing and very intricate and complex story of how Ravana was to be killed. And then, of course, Ram had been given an arrow by a very famous and very powerful sage named Agastya Muni when they were in what was that place? Panchavati, yeah. When they were in Panchavati, he gave him a special arrow. He said, use this only when you actually need it. It's like a Brahmastra. So at that time, Ram remembered the arrow, went through his quiver, found that arrow, put it back on his bow, pulled it back. And as soon as he pulled it back, the entire universe started to shake. And aquatics were jumping in the waters. Animals were falling out of birds were falling out of the sky. It was just by him pulling it back. And then he fired that arrow with such force and went into the heart of Ravana and came out to the other side and went into the earth, went around the earth and came back into Ram's quiver. Powerful arrow. So it's another very important message that we have here is that with the mercy of Guru, Agastya Muni, one can achieve, success in one's practice of spiritual life. Without the mercy of Guru, one cannot actually achieve any advancement on the practice of devotional service. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada, yasya prasado nagati kutopi. Only by the mercy of Guru can one traverse the path of bhakti, and by the mercy of Guru, one can reach the platform of perfection, which is Prema Pumartha Mahan, pure love for Krishna, which is the ultimate goal of human life, and the most prized and rare situation where the living entity can go back home, back to the spiritual world, in their eternal home, and associate with the Lord in loving devotional service. And so this is just, we're just touching a small, tiny drop of this most amazing story. Please take some time today and read as much as you can. I'll end with one very interesting pastime that you probably haven't heard. Most people haven't heard this pastime. But it's related to a question that sometimes comes up that remains unanswered. But I came across the answer just recently. How did Ram and his others leave the planet? We know when Sita was banished from the kingdom, Lakshman took her to the ashram of Valmiki Muni, and there, at that time, she was pregnant, and she gave birth to two illustrious sons, Love and Kush. And then she left the world while being at Valmiki's ashram. So how did Ram leave? It's interesting. After all of his pastimes somewhat complete, Lord Brahma came to Ram and said, "It is now time to return to your abode." Ram listened, and then just a little bit after that, a particular person came. His name was Time. Time took the form of a mendicant, an older person, and he appeared in the life of Ram. He said, "Ram, I am Time. I've come with a message, and this message cannot be heard by anyone but you. So let us have a secret meeting, and I will explain this message to you." Ram readily agreed, knowing it was coming from Lord Brahma. And so they arranged for a meeting and said that anybody who hears this message outside of Ram would immediately die. So in order to prevent that, the meeting was secret. And so they're together, and then Ram stations Lakshman outside and says, if anybody comes, don't let them in, don't interrupt this meeting. And if anyone who interrupts this meeting will be punished. So Ram and Time together, and then Durvasa Muni comes. We know Durvasa Muni, he is very, when he wants something, he makes sure he gets it. Or he tries his best. You can't say no to Durvasa Muni. He doesn't listen to anything. So he came up to Lakshman. He said, I want to meet him. I have to talk to him right away. Lakshman said, he's busy. He cannot talk right now. You'll have to wait till he's finished. I want to see him now. And if you don't allow me to see him now, I'll burn this whole city of Ayodhya to the ground. So he threatened. So Lakshman thought, all right. So he went inside and said, Durvasa Muni is here to see you, my dear Lord. And the Lord was very much angry that the meeting was interrupted. But knowing Durvasa, Ram said to Lakshman, send him in. So he came in, and the meeting time was curtailed, and Ram met with Durvasa Muni for some time. After that was all over, Ram came to Lakshman and said, you didn't follow my instructions not to allow anyone in. Therefore, I don't want to see you again. You cannot stay in my association. Lakshman was brokenhearted at that, but he took it as an opportunity. And so immediately after that, he went down to the ocean, and he walked right into the ocean and left the world. So in one sense, it was the occasion that allowed Lakshman to return to the spiritual world. Now Ram gathers his two brothers, Bharat and Shatrugna, and he says, now we are leaving. So the three of them start walking, and everyone in the citizens in the Ionia were worried. Where are they going? And then it was understood that Ram was going to the forest. Yes, he was going to go to the forest. So he was thinking, he's going to the forest again? How can we, undergo this separation that is miserable? He was gone for 14 years. Now he's leaving again. So they got their wagons, they got their bullock carts, they got all of their paraphernalia together. And not only the citizens, but even the animals could not withstand the Ram. And so there was a grand exodus of the entire city. It said there was nothing left in the city. No life was found anywhere in the city. Everyone was following Ram into the forest again. Ram walked for some time. He came to this body of water called the Soraya River. We also know that Ionia is right there by that famous Soraya River. He stood. Ram kept walking straight ahead with his mind fixed on what he was doing. He was not deterred by all of the citizens that were following him. The three of them walked and came to the Soraya River with folded hands. They offered prayers to the Soraya River, and the three of them walked into the river, and that was the disappearance of Ram, Bharat, and Shatrugna. Lakshman and Sita had already achieved the spiritual world. That's a beautiful story, how the Lord performs his pastimes of disappearance. When he appears, it's glorious. When he disappears, it's a very sad occasion for everyone, but it's to be expected because he comes for a certain time, performs his mission, and because he is the independent supreme personality of Godhead, according to his own desires, he leaves whenever he wants. He's not bound by anything. Of course, he's bound by the love of his devotee, but all it says that all of those citizens and the animals, they all went back to Godhead. Well, there was no lust for the citizens. Perfection in life and liberation back. Nina, are you there?
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you for sharing those wonderful stories, and especially this, the last pastime. Maharaj, we've been hearing about the glories of Sri Lord Ram for the last few days, and today's the beautiful day, and this anticipation has been building up so much for Ram Navami. Thank you so much for giving us the beautiful story. Maharaj, one quick question. You were talking about Lord Ram and his brothers leaving this earth. I was thinking of Mother Sita. If you could kindly enlighten and give a little bit more significance about how we should understand what Mother Sita going back to Mother Earth. We see that when she had the Agni Pariksha, she was not Lord Ram had to actually exchange the real Sita back from the fire god. But how should we understand that Mother Sita, once again in front of everybody, how she felt, or how should we understand that she went back to Mother Earth? How should we see that?
Well, I think it was the will of Ram, and so she followed that. It was his invulnerable will. He wasn't going to change that. But it was all orchestrated for their exodus back to the spiritual world. When he tested her with the test of fire, she fixed her mind on the lotus feet of Ram and walked into the fire. And then the fire god came out with the real Sita. So that pastime shows that Ravana, and this is a general principle or a rule, that a great personality cannot be touched by the envious demons who exist. They have no jurisdiction to do anything to them. Demons cannot capture or harm persons who are spiritually pure. Not possible. That's why Prabhupada would even say Jesus Christ did not die on the cross. He simply went into samadhi. He was not killed. He went into a samadhi and he feigned the idea of dying, and then they put him into that cave, and after 3 days he came out. And it's described that he went to an area of India called, what was that area? The area of northern India. What is
Kashmir?
That? Yeah, Kashmir. Christ went to Kashmir. There's a lot of proof that he left the world when he was in Kashmir. A lot of evidence. So just to illustrate that a great soul can never be killed or touched by the demoniac person. Pure devotees can never be harmed. But sometimes it appears that way.
Right. Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, one quick question. I was pondering on the thing of vow and promises that you were saying. We see so many people taking vows, coming into ISKCON and getting initiated. However, after a while, they either are not able to follow the regulative principle very, very sternly. So what happens? Does it come back to them as a karma, or?
Yeah, they go down. They go down. If they fail to chant their rounds, they go down. If they break the regulative principles, then they cause problems with their spiritual master. Spiritual master gets sick or has bad dreams. Prabhupada talks about that. So, yeah, there's a reaction for that because that vow is taken in front of the fire, which represents the Lord. The assemble the Vaishnavas, spiritual master, or the disciplic succession. It's such an auspicious ceremony. It heralds the beginning of one's success in life. Initiation means beginning. As Prabhupada said, what are you beginning? You're beginning the path of bhakti. This is something that you've been waiting for millions of lifetimes. So once you undergo it, you should be taken very seriously. I mean, Prabhupada spoke very strongly about people who break it. I won't repeat some of the words because they're really kind of heavy. I don't want to scare people too much. But one should not, once if you take initiation, no question of not following. And Prabhupada would say, well, if you're not going to follow, then why did you take initiation?
Exactly. True. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. We have Shukakara Prabhuji. Would you like to go ahead with your question?
Mataji, thank you very much, Nina Mataji. Happy Ramanavami. Thank you very much, Chandramauli Maharaj. You are actually, when we see you, we are seeing Srila Prabhupada. On this great day you have come. So please, we seek all your blessings. Maharaj, I got one question. See, when Ravana came to kidnap Sita Devi, actually she converted into Maya Sita because Ravana cannot come near the main Sita. But when Hanumanji came and met Sita Devi, at the time Hanumanji revealed some very, very important thing which happened only Ram and Sita Devi knows. And also Sita Devi told some stories which only Sita and Ram knows. So at that time, whether the Sita again got changed into main Sita, how? Because she has already gone in the fire. So how it can come back? So I'm very confused.
Don't worry, on the spiritual platform, and everything's possible. If you're looking for a practical answer, it defies practicality. Yeah, because the relationship between the Lord and his internal energy has nothing to do with anything material.
So it can keep changing automatically. Whenever required, it can change into normal Sita, Maya Sita, normal Sita.
Yeah. Yeah. The Maya Sita was Vegavati, was actually a person. Vegavati had approached Ram for marriage. He said, Ekapatni. But he promised her that he would marry her in another life, I think it was. I think in another incarnation she appeared and got the opportunity. But yeah, so she was a shadow representative of Sita.
But can you just tell something about this Sundarakandam? Because the Hanuman, we didn't hear much about Hanumanji, because the Sundarakand name came because it was because of Hanuman was the hero at that point, not Sundarakandam. So Sundara means beautiful. So as a monkey, he was beautiful because his mother used to call him in the young days Sundara, Sundara, like that he used to call. So there I wanted some little confirmation from you, Maharaj.
What is the question?
No, there is Balakand, Sundarakand, then Yuddhakand. So Sundarakand actually it is totally played by Hanumanji after he jumped and went to Ashokwati and he searched and finally he burned and came back. So Sundarakand, Sundara means beautiful. So it was Hanumanji, he was the main person. So how he was called Sundara, just because his mother called him Sundara, or he was Sundara as a devotee, that I wanted.
I think if you see him, you will understand your answer. He is
Lord Shiva only.
Yeah, he's an energy of Lord Shiva, that's right. Kesari Raj, Kesari Putra. Anjana was a beautiful society girl. Not society girl, she was a beautiful heavenly damsel, not a society girl. Yeah. So yeah, he comes from a very highly beautiful family. But does that indicate Hanuman when you say Sundarakand? Does it connect direct with him, or does it have another meaning to it?
Because I heard in Kamba Ramayanam, in there they told that Sundarakandam is mainly they are referring Hanumanji as Sundara. So I just want to know that he was Sundara. Okay, he was beautiful, but he was not a human body, he was a monkey body. But still, he was a beautiful servant of Lord Rama. And is he the Dasya? Is he at the top, or is what Lakshman? Lakshman is also by the Dasya, and Hanumanji also Dasras. So whom it really shows, who is the Dasyaras? Was Hanuman the biggest Dasa or Lakshmana?
Well, it mentions in the Shastras that there are 9 angas of bhakti. And one is, becoming the servant of the Lord. That means carrying out and carrying out instruction. Hanuman is illustrated as the topmost in that area. You see, Lakshman, he carried out the orders, but sometimes reluctantly. But I would just mention one thing: the word Sundara doesn't necessarily have to apply to physical beauty.
Oh, okay, Maharaj.
One can have beautiful activities also.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Seek your blessings on Ramanavami. All of us should become a beautiful devotee and of Sri Ramachandra and seek your blessings, profuse blessings, because you are really so close to Prabhupada. You are still alive and you are Prabhupada's disciple. So please bless all of us, Maharaj. Please. We touch your lotus feet through the online.
Thank you for your very insightful contributions to the philosophical discussions that we have. Thank you. They're always very interesting and very revealing.
All your mercy, Maharaj, all your blessings. Thank you so much. His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj ki Jai Maharaj. Thank you.
Jyoti Mataji, would you like to go ahead with your question, please?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam, Maharajji. Maharajji, my question is, why Lord always start his life with crisis? When he came in the when he was in the Ram form, his whole entire life was full of crisis. When he came in the form of Krishna, the crisis increased. So, and now the crisis that I'm facing in my current life, so it is very difficult. I want to know why the crisis, why so many crises at the same time, and why he designed so, and what is the message?
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dugalayam Sasratam. This world is what it is, crisis. Living in the material world means solving problems every minute. Trying to solve problems. You're hungry, that's a problem. You're needy, that's a problem. You're cold, that's a problem. You're hot, that's a problem. Your neighbor's not right, that's a problem. Your money's not enough, that's a problem. Your body's giving you trouble, that's a problem. So many. Welcome to the material world.
So all the time is consumed, Maharajji, and how to gain that the same spontaneity and the energy to do bhakti. I'm facing a lot of.
Yeah, then the answer is there. Lalo doshani de rajan astiyako mahakun kirtana eva krishnasya mukta sangam param bhaja. Just chant Hare Krishna, but don't stop. Keep chanting the holy names of the Lord, and you'll push back all of the problems, and you'll start to awaken real happiness, which is the nature of the soul's existence. Want to be happy? Chant Hare Krishna, serve Vaishnavas, and take Krishna Prasad, and you'll be happy. Just do those 3 things.
I'll try, Maharajji. I'll definitely try. I'm trying. But it is difficult. Even the 3 things which you said, it sounds very simple, but in the crisis, It's very difficult to follow. It's really very difficult.
Yeah,
Please accept my respectful obeisances.
but one of the qualities of a Vaishnava is not disturbed by happiness and distress. Called Dita. Not to be, happiness comes, it goes. Distress comes, it goes.
Yeah.
A devotee keeps their mind focused on their business, despite the happiness, despite the distress. Our business is to become Krishna conscious.
Yes, I'll try, Maharajji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Sounds so discouraged.
Maharaj, one thing I've noticed, I haven't been like, I'm basically a kind of a new devotee, but when I started to chant a few years ago, things starts to fall in its place. So when devotees say chant and it will take care, it's like magic. It's unbelievable how things fall in its place just by chanting. It's amazing. I mean,
Center is the creator. Krishna created everything. He knows how everything.
Absolutely.
He's the source. He's the center. He's the energy. He's everything. And so when you bring Krishna into your life, things start to be organized again.
My only complaint to Lord Krishna, why didn't I know this before? I mean, things would be so much simpler. It's really, it took so long.
Yeah, you should tell it to all of your associates that don't waste time because I waste.
Yes. Devotees, please switch on your camera so Maharaj can view you all and he can bless you all. Please. I saw another hand raised. Okay. Scarlet Mataji, do you have a question for Maharaj?
I'm so sorry. It can wait for next time.
That's okay.
So I will do it next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sri Devi Mataji, would you like to go ahead with your question, please?
Thank you, Nina. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to beautiful Lord Ram and these beautiful pastimes. Excuse me. Guru Maharaj, right in the beginning, you mentioned about the initiation vows and how serious it is to keep our vows. And you said that when you break your vows, it causes disturbance to you and to others. Then later on, I think to Nina's question, maybe you explained that when you stop chanting, you start getting reaction, but you break the regulator principle, the spiritual master starts suffering. So how is it that others start, getting disturbed also by this, you're breaking the vows? I thought it's just the disciple and the spiritual master who suffer, but it sounded like it disturbs others also.
Yeah, because you're connected to other people. You're not an island in yourself.
Right.
And if you're Krishna conscious, wherever you go, you benedict people. If you're material conscious, then you affect people in that way. If you give up your vows, that means who's going to trust you in the future? You break trust. When you break trust on that level, then that means you can't be trusted. I mentioned that about a month ago, 3 things that make up human qualities. One is to keep your promise, keep your word. That's one of the qualities of a human being. That when they're going to do something, they're going to say they're going to do it. We do it. Now, extenuating circumstances allow things to adjust. when it comes to a vow, you have to understand the difference between a promise and a vow. A vow is something that is not breakable. A promise is adjustable due to circumstance, but we still shouldn't take advantage of it.
So when we break our vows, we are going to definitely get affected by the material energy. And as we become polluted by the material energy, we are going to cause disturbance to other people since we are connected to other people.
Yeah, just like marriage, they say take your marriage vows also. So marriage is another terminology they use the word vow in it also. Marriage vows, initiation vows. What other category implies the word vow in it? And I think those two are the only two I can think of.
Thank you, Maharaj. Shamgari Mataji, would you like to go ahead, Mata, with your question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, Maharaj. Happy Ram Navami. Thank you so much. Very, very wonderful katha. Nice to hear from you on the day of Ram Navami. So, Maharaj, my question is like, Sita Devi, she was in the, when before going to Ravan, Lord Ram, transfer her in Maya Sita and real Sita. So where she went, when did she went with Agni or she went somewhere? Whose custody she was in?
She went to the boat of the fire god, Agni.
Can you say it again, Maharaj? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, she went to the abode of the fire god.
Fire god. Okay.
Namrata Mataji, would you like to go ahead with your question, Mata?
Hare Krishna, accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, I wanted to ask about chastity. Most of the time we hear about chastity. I'm sure chastity is not limited to being loyal, just being loyal to one's own spouse. There are much more details in that. So can you please shed some light on the topic of chastity?
Oh no, I'm not going to tackle that. It's too complex and it's too broad. Whatever I say is going to leave questions open. You're going to get 10 more questions for whatever I say. Yeah, I can give it from one angle of vision, and that's all I can say. But then again, I don't want to turn it into a debate because we want to keep it on Ram Leela here. So you can ask me another time.
Okay, Maharaj, no problem. Hare Krishna.
It's too complex and it's too broad.
I understand, Maharaj. No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Shukakara Prabhu, would you like to go ahead with your question, please?
Because I ask so many questions, please don't feel bad, Maharaj. I'm asking so many questions because I get immediate quick answer. You give one line reply. Maharaj is Indra's son, who came as a crow and he disturbed Sita Devi and Sri Ram sent the Brahmastra and there's a Jayanta. So, in spite of hurting Sita Devi, he went back to Sita Devi for support. And she told, please don't disturb, don't punish him, leave him. So, she's so karuna that Ram got annoyed because he has disturbed her. And when he went to her, and then Ram said, I have to give some punishment, so one eyes will go. So Indra son lost one eyes, and then he gave Katha on Ramayana. So how the mercy is so much that somebody who is playing against the Supreme Lord and the God, the wife of the Supreme Lord, and he is being blessed. And there was one Ramayana of Jain Ramayana. So I'm just asking the mercy or the karuna of Sita Devi and Rama.
I think you answered your question already. Well, the answer is the mercy of the Lord. That's. Why is the Lord merciful? Because he is.
No, just now you told us that Maharaj, that anybody breaking the regulative principles. So all the people who are breaking, they are also children. They are by mistake they're doing they're breaking the mistake. So will it get excused by Guru and Gauranga, or what is the way to get out of that? Because one of my friend devotee, he was a very good devotee, initiated, but somehow something happened in his life, and he was trying to marry somebody, she didn't marry, so he started drinking. So I'm telling you're already broken this again. You're drinking. Let me just get back to give me some time, I'll come back. So what is the solution for the mind being swayed away instead of promising in front of the fire god, doing wrong things? What can be the way to get corrected and come back to the spiritual life and Krishna consciousness?
Well, obviously they need some counseling and some help. Well, we deal with the situation, but we know just simply by saying come back, it doesn't really resonate with people. Using threats doesn't work either, because people just don't take them. So you have to extend yourself to see if there is an opportunity to reach the person and speak directly and try to understand deeper what causes them to leave and what can come back. Sometimes it's something in their life. Sometimes they just weren't ready for initiation. They didn't understood what initiation means. They didn't understand what spiritual life meant. They thought it was, I'll join the club, get a name, and I'll be, a nice spiritual person. But it's not like that. So there's different reasons why people come, different reasons why people leave too. So the more serious ones, you have to take time and discuss it with them.
Because since you are part of the top line of GBCs and all, I was just thinking that there are a lot of devotees, they are not getting proper care, and there are new devotees joining, the money is coming, everything is coming, but the devotee care is not, I'm not finding fault, Maharaj. I'm just telling you, as you are like my father or you're my uncle, how it can be extended.
Well, we started a devotee care program starting in the end of the 1990s, and it started to really blossom in the beginning of 2000. 2004 was at its best, and it's still in place. So it's a principle that has to be adopted in all of the centers it's not that the guru just cares for the disciple. There has to be a care system where the disciple, whatever they need, even outside of the guru, within the temple, within the association of devotees.
Yes, Maharaj, because this is a very important thing. It's happening. So since you are very senior, I just wanted to share with you that it needs more.
If you study the system that is being done by the devotees in Bombay, Chowpatty, you'll find it's a complete system. So anything anyone needs on any level, both in getting things or in doing things, or in personal needs, all of that is in a system where they have someone they can go to and find answers to their problems. If you study
thank you, Maharaj.
That system started by Radhanath Swami was ideal. Started that back in the 1980s. And it finally caught on, and there's a few other yatras that have adopted it. But it's foolproof in that system in Chowpatty, because I have personal experiences in that system, so I know for sure how it works.
Jai.
So it's quite good.
So what is the source? How to go to the Chowpatty temple? I'm not in big touch with them. Can I go through you? Whether you can connect, because to solve some serious problem going on in some devotees, and they're very scared, and they're just trying to solve themselves, but they're not. They're getting more trouble, and they're going away.
I would suggest you contact this one devotee named Gauranga. He's one of the top devotees in the yatra.
Govardhaniko village.
Yeah, but he's now at GBC for that area. Gauranga.
Okay, Maharaj.
Quite
Thank you so much,
Maharaj. He knows this.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thanks for your wonderful connectivity.
Pramiti Mataji, please go ahead with your question, Mata.
Dandavat Pranam, Maharaj. Maharaj, I'm praying for your mercy to be initiated.
Praying for mercy to get initiated?
Yes, Maharaj.
Best wishes. Everyone should take that step in life. It's important, because without that, one cannot achieve perfection in life or ultimate happiness. So prepare yourself, follow the principles carefully, chant your rounds nicely every day, associate with devotees, and then in due course of time, you'll be qualified for that step called Bhajana Kriya. It's the third step on the 9-step process of bhakti. Bhajana Kriya. So as you prepare yourself, Krishna will arrange everything for you. He'll do it.
Haribol Mataji.
Okay.
And as the scriptures say, when the candidate is ready, the guru appears.
True. Gail Mataji, would you like to go ahead with your question, please?
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Yeah, my question refers to the fact that when the disciple does not obey the orders of the spiritual master suffers. So I'm just wondering about that, because the spiritual master, he's usually Krishna's pure devotee who has taken the disciple out of his compassion and out of his desire to serve the Lord. So I just don't understand why Krishna would punish the spiritual master because of the misdeeds of his disciple, who the guru was only trying to help.
Yeah.
And he is Krishna's loving servant. So it doesn't seem logical.
The answer is, at the time of initiation, there's a vow being made where the disciple vows to chant 16 rounds and follow strictly the 4 regular principles. And the spiritual master has vowed that to take that the disciple back to Godhead. So that's a contract. And now, if the disciple doesn't follow the instructions, that's one thing. But if he breaks those 4 regulative principles, they are sinful activities. So the reactions of the sinful activities go both to the disciple and to the spiritual master, because the spiritual master has promised to take that person back to Godhead. Now, if the spiritual master does not correct that person, then he can also go down. So it's his duty to correct that person. And if that person cannot be corrected, then after some time, they can no longer call themselves a disciple, and the contract is broken by the disciple, and therefore there is no responsibility on the part of the spiritual master anymore. So it's only those 4 regulative principles we're talking about, because they're sinful activities. That's the 4. If the disciple doesn't follow the instructions, he suffers. The spiritual master doesn't suffer.
Yeah, so in the case where the disciple has not been following the 4 regulative principles, but there is no fault on the spiritual master, because it's not that he hasn't taken him under his wing and given him good instruction. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. So if in the situation where the disciple has not followed the good instruction of the spiritual master, I don't know, it just doesn't seem...
Yeah, I understand your question. I understand. And therefore, there's another injunction that says, if a spiritual master carries a sinful disciple, he goes to hell also. So he has to drop that disciple or correct him. If he can't correct him, he should drop him. But then again, you'll see that it's very rare that the spiritual master will drop a disciple, but it does happen.
One thing I've also heard is that even if Krishna gives some reaction to the spiritual master, because the spiritual master is on a different platform, he's on a spiritual platform, he doesn't experience the reactions the same way as an ordinary conditioned soul would. So maybe in that way, I can understand that he doesn't actually get
he gets a token. It's a token. This Prabhupada said, because you're committing sinful activities, I'm having bad dreams. You can read it in the Bhagavatam.
But even that token, he probably wouldn't experience it the same way as an ordinary conditioned soul would, right?
No, because Krishna minimizes that.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if we were to experience it on the same level as the severity of the breaking, there'll be no spiritual masters left. They would all be invalids.
But you in your answer, you made a distinction between, I wasn't sure what you were making the distinction between when you mentioned that breaking the 4 regs is sinful. And I think you were trying to distinguish that from some other kind of misdeeds. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm following instructions. The disciples suffer. But these four sinful activities are the pillars of all sinful activities. Therefore, if one follows them, they're free from all reactions of all sinful activities.
Yeah, this is the part I'm trying to understand. So are you making a distinction between following breaking the four regs and not following instructions? No,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I am.
oh,
Not following instructions, the spiritual master doesn't suffer. But he suffers like a father who suffers when the child doesn't obey. That's the kind of suffering he goes through.
because the reason why I'm asking is because, following the four regs, that's also one of the instructions.
Yeah, but that's specific.
But that's what?
That's specific at the time of initiation.
Oh, the voice is breaking.
That's part of the fire yoga. You agree? Yeah, those you can't break.
So when you break the four regs from following the instructions, it means that following the instructions means specific things that the spiritual master asks you to do, whereas the four regs is in a different category.
Like the spiritual master gives you the chance 16 rounds. And if you don't do it, you suffer, not him.
Okay. Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Maharaj, on the chat box, there are a few devotees that are requesting for your email. Can we go ahead and share it or no?
No.
Maharaj doesn't want to be bombarded. Okay.
If you can get it to the underground, then that's okay. But I'm not going to give it.
Okay. Sorry. I see a hand raised, but I don't see your name, Mataji. I just see your iPhone. Would you like to go ahead and pose your question?
That's Elena.
Elena Mataji. Oh, Elena Mataji was very happy to hear you laugh. She was wonderfully mentioning a comment. Maharaj, it's so nice to hear you laugh. Go ahead,
Hare
Mataji, with your
Krishna.
question.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, Guru Maharaj, and all glories to devotees. I have a question. Sorry for my bad English. I have a question for initiation and the merciful of Guru. Because in my situation, I think I'm not a perfect, but when Krishna manifests the disciples, it's okay to initiation because I respect the principle, chanting 16 rounds or the principle, no? Don't eat meat and okay. But I'm not perfect to do this. And when
I think I know the answer to your question. The answer is,
I think.
Yeah, let me tell you the answer. It's not so simple. If anyone wants to get initiation, they say, well, I want to aspire for this spiritual master. So as soon as they begin aspiring, they become officially connected with the process of following the instructions of the spiritual master. And then for at least 1 year, they have to chant 16 rounds every day and follow the four regulatory principles. And then before they can get initiated, they have to take the disciples course which is a
Yes.
2-day. And they also have to get an approval from their mentor, their local authority, who they work under, in order for the spiritual master to go ahead and give initiation. So the spiritual master really doesn't get involved with the initiation process. He just gives the initiation. The process is documented in a certain way by different rules and requirements that are given. So one has to follow and come up to the standard. That's it. So you have to know what are those rules and requirements that I have to follow in order to qualify for initiation. So yeah, so that's it. And then once you follow all of them and you get an approval, just like those who live in the United Kingdom, in the area of England, very strict system. They have people, before you can get initiated, you go to that system and they put you under the care of a senior devotee. And then you have to be responsible to that senior devotee who monitors your progress in spiritual life. And after you passed all of the requirements, the senior devotee will say, well, this person is ready for initiation. They'll write a letter. The letter will go to the spiritual master saying this person is now ready for initiation. So it's a process.
Yes.
So you have to plug into that system. That's all. And each guru has a system. How he mandates his approval, and there's a system you have to follow. That's all. So in my case, there is a person, her name is Radha Bhakti. And if you she does my secretarial work. If you contact her, she'll give you all the information in written form, plus other things, and then you're on your way. When Prabhupada was here, it wasn't like that. Prabhupada just observed somebody and gave him initiation right away. But now we have a system. And that system protects the disciple and protects the spiritual master.
And protect the guru, no?
Yeah, the guru is protected, and the spirit and the disciple becomes qualified.
Okay.
You have to become qualified for initiation, not just, oh, it's a nice thing to do, and so I'll do it. If you want to graduate from college, you got to take the tests, go to the lectures, pass the examinations, do the homework. Spiritual life is empty. So, good luck. I wish everyone good luck, but I don't do
Hare
anything.
Krishna.
I just sit back and wait for the recommendation letter to come through. That's it.
Very well. Thank you very much.
I'll quickly read through some of the comments. So Ayan Shah is expressing his heartfelt obeisances at your lotus feet, Maharaj. We have Aditi Mataji wishing everybody happy Ram Navami and obeisances at your lotus feet, Maharaj. Jyoti Mataji is offering her humble obeisances at your lotus feet, and Parimiti Mataji as well. And she thanks you for having such a wonderful glorification of Lord Rama's pastimes and classes. Sri Devi Mataji mentions that your discourses are Sundara, wonderful. And Parimiti Mataji is seeking your blessings, your prayers. Ria Mataji says such a wonderful association that you're giving to all of us, and she's thanking you. Jyoti Mataji is eternally grateful. And of course, Ileana Mataji, she was happy to hear you laugh. And then let me just quickly browse. And
Gail Mataji has one more question.
Gail Mataji, would you like to go ahead with your question, Mata?
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Maharaj, I'm just curious about what to make of spiritual masters who don't actually follow the process you described before initiating their disciples. You know, let's say those who require much less time than a year of, you know, and don't require either, you know, a letter from a temple, a recommendation letter, things like this. You know, what to make of that?
No, it's across the board. Now, you know, the idea is out. Before a person gets initiation, they have to get a recommendation.
No, but I mean, I'm aware of several cases where, you know, initiation happens without those requirements being fulfilled. So what to make of that?
What can you do?
Okay. I mean, I didn't know, you know, what is there any implication for the spiritual master or the disciple, or I don't know.
Well, the spiritual master wants someone who is serious, and these qualifications help to establish your commitment, your seriousness. But it doesn't mean because you don't follow all the qualifications, you're not serious. But still, just like in a university, you have to go through the different requirements in order to get the diploma. So there have been too many incidences where people have come for initiation and left. They were initiated and then they went away. In order to prevent that, this is what's required.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I guess, as you said, you know, there may be exceptions where the spiritual master bypasses some of those requirements and the student is also serious.
Well, it depends on where it is. Like in the UK, the spiritual masters can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They know that. If they have any disciples in the United Kingdom, they have to follow strictly that system. It's a very strong and very organized system. It's been going on for years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but sometimes outside of the UK or where the system is not so strongly in place, they may do something like that. But that's up to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the cases I'm thinking of, they are outside of UK.
Yeah.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, Maharaj, go ahead.
Do we stop here?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go ahead. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha.
Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda
Ki Jai. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Holy Swami Maharaj
Prabhupada
ki
Ki
Jai.
Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Candramauli Maharaj Ki Jai.